Wow, can everybody hear me? Xin chào các anh chị, đến tôi là Ricky từ Caterpillar Asia. A very good morning to all of you. My name is Ricky Goh. I'm from Caterpillar Asia Pacific. It is my privilege to be here to see all of you. And of course, before I start, a special thanks to Viettel IDC for hosting us and giving us this platform. Special thanks to Mr. Ngop for allowing us to share more about Green Data Center with you today. Oh, sorry, how do I go back? Yeah. So, without further ado, I know we have very limited time, but I hope this sharing will be good for all of us because the primary focus is about Green Data Center and sustainability for your infrastructure. So, I've been trained with uptime and working a lot of on data centers, so I hope today I could share some of my experiences and some of the possibility of what we can do for a green data center. So today's agenda will be covering 4 topics. One is about CHP, second is about microgrid and renewable fuels, which we focus a bit more on HVO, which I'll talk more later, and hydrogen application as well. So without further ado, I'll jump straight into our first topic. So over here, perhaps it brings up the power back to normal. And then we have renewable integration. So today we know if we put on the solar PVs, there will be a lot of interruption when there's a cloud passing or when it's a rainy day. You don't get the power that you need at that point in time. And so the energy storage system will help to support the power. Excuse me. Yeah, and thanks. Thank you. Sorry. So the next one is what we call time shift. So time shift is important when you want to use that power that you store during the day and use it at night. So you have free energy when there's less power need. So this allows you to use power that can be used for a longer time to discharge. Of course, we need to know that in order to store so much amount of energy, you need a lot of energy storage as well. So that is also one of the things that we need to plan and support the infrastructure. Okay, so I think this will be an interesting topic about renewable fuels, HVO. So perhaps some of you have heard of this and some of you have not, but not a problem. So this is what we try to advocate today about renewable fuels, because sometimes when I talk to people, they say, Ricky, this is the end of diesel generator sets. We don't need gen sets anymore, which is something that I do not agree, because in order to support a data center, you need gen sets to run maybe 24 hours or a longer time than that. And so the only possibility is to use a different type of fuel that can support the diesel gen sets. So what is HVO? Now, HVO means hydro-treated vegetable oil, which is also referred to as the renewable diesel. So it is very similar to a fossil diesel. The chemistry is almost the same, which makes it compatible to be used on the diesel gensets. And the good part is it does not contain oxygen, because oxygen will have oxidation, which causes water absorption. And this is 100% renewable, made from raw and waste vegetable or even animal fats. Okay, so what is important is to know that this fuel is very similar, but it is 100% renewable. That means it doesn't produce you are not producing new carbon, but what it does is actually from the life cycle, remember it's a life cycle of the fuel, where it existed as a plant, it absorbed the CO2, and so when you eventually use it, you burn it, you are not producing new carbon dioxide into the air, while you're just releasing what was captured in the early days as a fuel, as an animal's feedstock or as a plant. So this is very important because we need to understand that when you burn it, there will still be CO2 being released. Okay, it's quite similar to diesel. However, it's because it is not producing any new carbon dioxide, but rather releasing the ones that has been captured before. So what is the benefit of using the HVO? Of course, as I mentioned, it's life cycle. Okay, the keyword is life cycle. CO2 reduction. It is a drop-in fuel replacement. So today, in Belgium, in the pumps, there are diesel cars, and you can go to a next pump where it's producing HVO, you can pump it straight away into your diesel car and you can still continue to use it. So there is a reduce in exhaust particle, especially in terms of smoke, so you don't see much smoke. But other than that, it will be quite similar to a diesel genset in terms of the emissions. So as we move towards a renewable fuel, there are things to consider as well. So there could be potentially a reduction in the maximum power. So primarily it's because the fuel is lighter than diesel. And there's a possibility for increased volumetric consumption, which is your fuel consumption. Now the next consideration is of course availability. So right now in most of Europe, they have adopted HVO in many places, but in Asia, we are starting to see a change. In fact, we have done some testing. We managed to get availability of this HVO in Singapore. So we've done some tests with our gensets, and like one of the tests we did was to put 50% diesel and 50% HVO, and we run the test, and it was very successful. So these are the things that we need to consider when we plan for a change to HVO. So today, if you ask me, do you need to throw away your diesel gensets? Please don't do that, because the fuel is one of the things you can change to reduce the whole CO2 emissions life cycle. And possibly in the future, we talk about synthetic diesel, and that is where there could be a potential to hit zero emissions at the end of the day. So this is very important because your existing infrastructure with the diesel gensets, you don't have to worry, it's actually a drop-in replacement for diesel. So primarily, you can switch the fuel back and forth without any concern. So it's compatible with our CAT diesel engines, and we'll use the same operating and maintenance process. So there's no big change for you. You can just change the fuel and we are able to run it. And fuel tank modification is also limited because basically we will do the same maintenance for the fuel, and so you don't have to worry about that. In terms of EPA is the US Environmental Protection Agency. So as long as you meet the fuel specs, which is in accordance to ASTM D975, and this will also be a fuel that's acceptable in terms of what can be used for diesel engines. All right, so the key takeaway for HVO is you can fuel up today without any modifications on the existing gensets. And it reduces your life cycle for CO2 and also less visible smoke emissions. And of course, you will still be able to maintain your genset performance. So this is one of the news that we have done. So just to share with all of you, we have already worked with Microsoft. This is in the news, so it's one of our press release using renewable liquid fuel, which is what we call the HVO as well. Now, as I have limited time, the last part is about hydrogen. So we know that today hydrogen is really the cleanest form of fuel at this moment that we can use, but however, there are a lot of considerations as well. So that hydrogen impacts on the output efficiency. So using hydrogen compared to natural gas will easily see the power being reduced 30%, 40%. Emissions, of course, emissions is clean. The initial first cost to build the infrastructure to have hydrogen in your data center may be a consideration, especially with cost. And of course, the fuel, the maintenance, and last but not least, safety. right? So not many people can appreciate to have a data center that stores hydrogen in the data center. So that could be something that we need to think about. How do we overcome that? So there are different types of hydrogen. Okay, we have the gray hydrogen, which is our traditional way, and the blue, which is what we're doing today. Now, all of us will be looking at the green, of course. However, green, which is carbon-free, it's through the water electrolysis process. And so in order to be green, you need to use 100% renewable energy just to convert water into hydrogen. And so that could be costly because you need the infrastructure and also the renewable energy to be in place to do that process. However, the good part is, as you can see, the green line is the greenhouse gas emissions. As much as it can, if you use 100% hydrogen, it will actually bring you down to almost zero emissions. So this is relative to what hydrogen can do to reduce emissions or greenhouse gas. At the same time, it also reduces things like your NOx, which is your nitrogen oxide, and it can reduce significantly. So today, what is possible? We have the 100% infrastructure with 100% hydrogen, maybe not ready yet, okay? So what is the likely path that we will take as maybe in Vietnam or in other countries? So we can see two paths and some of the cases that is happening right now. So to have hydrogen, we can possibly blend it, 10 to 20% mixed with natural gas in your existing pipeline, and then you use it to reduce the emissions. Of course, the other part is the 100%, where you have special locations, special facilities just to make sure that you can hold and store the 100% hydrogen. So the very immediate step we believe will be hydrogen blending, where you have to mix hydrogen. So I will not go through details, but for example, in Netherlands, the plan is to use the existing infrastructure, the gas pipelines. They call it repurposing, so they can use it, and then you can use the natural gas pipeline and blend with the hydrogen. So it's possible only up to 20%. Anything more than 20% blend of hydrogen, you will probably need to change the whole infrastructure. So today, what is possible is already up to 20%. Right, so today we have the capabilities to do blended. Now the good news is Caterpillar is also able to have a genset that runs 100% on hydrogen. So we have already done that in launch it to offer to our clients. So if you have requirement for 100% hydrogen gensets, do feel free to talk to me or our team here. Now in summary, to close, we have the different technologies available. So just quickly look at the blue lines where you have your diesel gensets, where it's used to back up, but today you can change it to a HVO fuel, and then we have the gas generator sets that is possible to run with combined heat power, plus the different kinds of fuel, which is whether it's blended with hydrogen or 100% hydrogen. And of course, we have solar PVs, and at the top, we have the energy storage. So in summary, there's different solutions that you need and intermediate steps before we reach that 2030 target of 100% sustainability. So immediately, you can use your backup genset today with a change of fuel using the renewable fuel such as biodiesel and HVO. And secondly, we have the gas gensets that is able to provide constant power using heat recovery to give you cooling power and reducing your PUE. And then with the different kinds of fuel, whether it's going to be blended with hydrogen or 100% hydrogen on the same gas gensets. And solar PV, which you can put in to reduce your power consumption. And of course, energy storage to support if there's an intermittent change in the solar power to let's say the grid power, okay? And so we like to have the idea that you can integrate all this into a microgrid, into a single microgrid, which will work to seek out what is the best source of power that's available. So with that, I thank you for all of your time, and I'll be at the booth under Full Thai Cat. So if there's a need for discussion, I will spend some time with you, hopefully to get to know you, and we can discuss more about the possible infrastructure. Thank you very much. Xin cảm ơn. Chúc sức khỏe.